experience of the holy nights and the whole inner year. So that's just a bit on the festivals. Now, the process, and I shared this with somebody last night who said that this is a whole course here, Lynn. So the elements, and it's interesting, this feeling of I belong here for this deed. And what are the elements that nurture that? What do you need to feel nurtured and that you belong at the threshold between spirit and matter? So it's sacred time and attention. And it doesn't matter how much time. You can 10 minutes a day, 12 minutes a day, a half an hour. It doesn't need to be a lot. It just needs you to make it sacred. And then a sacred place and placement. Where do you want to have this experience? Do you want to go out in nature and sit on a bench somewhere? Do you want to curl up with a cup of tea? Do you want to get into bed and read it before you go to sleep? Do you want to experience this holy nights? It's up to you. It's up to you. There's no correct experience. But it has to be yours, and you have to hold it sacred. So place and placement, the what is around you. Do you want a candle? Do you want that cup of tea or a glass of wine? I'm not opposed to having wine and reading a holy night's message. What is going to make you comfortable? What are the senses that you need around you? Sounds. What are the sounds that will make you feel really enriched by this time? And so all this sense of what is surrounding. So, and then sacred embodiment. And that is, again, an individual process. What makes you feel so at home in your body? Do you need to feel your feet firmly on the ground when you're doing your inner work? Do you need to be writing so you feel these miracles that are our hands? What is it that's going to bring you in? You could look at sacred embodiment as connecting to the Archangel Michael. You could look at sacred senses and surroundings as connecting you to the Archangel Uriel. Sacred place and placement, I would say, is Raphael, and time and attention is Gabriel. Fear not, give me your attention. It's Gabriel. So again, as you design your holy nights and what is going to protect your holy nights, set boundaries around your holy nights. And it's so enriching to be able to do this. And I have, Adele, you said you're a Waldorf teacher? And so many Waldorf schools, which is where most people learn about the holy nights, school starts during the holy nights. And suddenly the teachers who really need these 12 nights suddenly think they have to go and give all their attention to their teaching. And again, it's just something to really consider what is sacred and how this experience then enlivens you in such a way that when you go back to your deed as a teacher, there's something more. You've become more enlivened by the great ethers that you've met at the threshold. I mean, it's really marvelous to give yourself these questions. And I've grown because I have this obligation to write all these messages. I can't get distracted from the holy nights, which has been a huge blessing. And I really love that time. And it makes such a difference for my future. I mean, how I've evolved and become spiritually mature from giving this devotion to these 12 holy nights and these 12 perspectives. It makes a big difference. So the practice. So every holy night, whatever time that is for you, the journey to the threshold, what is your meditation? Write your own verse. Do not be afraid to write your own verse. The first time you write your own verse, it may not be, you may just look at it and criticize it. You shouldn't do that. You're just in this developmental spiral. And each time you write a holy night's meditation, do you realize what the spiritual world does when we have the courage to write our own meditation? Not to speak a meditation that's been given to us, but to have the courage of our own spiritual individuality. So when Steiner says in How to Know Higher Worlds, there's no more gurus, there are only spiritual friends. And many people beg Steiner to write verses and meditations, which he did. But he would have been much happier with somebody coming to him and saying, look what I wrote. This came to me. This makes a difference for me. And every holy night to enter the moods of wonder, awe, reverence, gratitude, and devotion. And again, this is not a checklist. This is nothing that you can say, wow, I got to wonder, or wow, I felt reverence. It's just this gentle developmental spiral. I mean, just writing, what does wonder mean? What does awe mean? What is devotion? It really helps. Another thing that is can give us pleasure, which is something about placement and objects or symbols, is to move them or alter them in 12 different ways. And, you know, I know one woman that has 12 tea lights, and she lights one tea light on the first night, 2 on the second, 3 on the third. I have these little ornaments I had made with the stars, and on one side is a solid color and on the other side is the star. And I lay them all out with the solid colors up on beautiful midnight blue velvet that I bought. And I turn them over, one each night in the color range. And I do them usually in a sort of wavy form. And it's a physical material symbol of what's changing in your life and the wisdom you're coming from. And then every holy night, you want a new perspective or a new question on whatever the theme is that you took with you to the threshold. And that's, you know, after all these years of choosing a theme and then finding these 12 perspectives, it's such an enlivening perspective, experience, process. So journal and artistic practice, if you have the time. It would really be so lovely. And again, that can be social. You can do that with others in terms of the artistic practice, or you can do it alone, just doing a little sketch with colored pencils, or if you have watercolors, or if you do a little dance, or you write a poem you could write a poem, one line on the first night, 2 lines on the second night, 3 lines on the third night, and build this poem of your experience. And then leaving the threshold. So again, write your own closing meditation. Experience that. Trust yourself. Okay, before and following. The preparation. This is releasing the old year. It's what I have created in Inner Advent. And it's the Inner Advent process. I'll be sharing new perspectives on Inner Advent this year. So I've created the year of light and the year of darkness, but it's kenosis is Greek for emptying out. And this is our job, to prepare for the holy nights. It's much easier to get to the threshold if we have done Inner Advent and released the year, that we have celebrated it, grieved, and forgiven all that's occurred in the passing year. And again, we can't cover everything, we can't remember everything, but it's the gesture. It's just the gesture. If you think of one thing in each season that stands out and you let it go, if you do just one, it'll be easier. You'll find the other showing up. And I look in the Inner Advent process is first acknowledging all the context of the year. So what's gone on in the world, what's gone on in nature. I mean, here in North Carolina, we're having the most extraordinary autumn. It's so golden, I can't get over it. Every day takes my breath away. That I would certainly put down in looking at nature. We've learned all these fires that have gone on around the world, the big storms, earthquakes, volcanoes, all this impacts us right now with the climate change. When we look at health, we've had COVID and vaccines all clustering in our consciousness and forcing us to make decisions that we probably aren't prepared to make, but we do our best. What's happened in your financial life? What's happened in your relational life? All these things are all about your year, and writing them down so you can release them is so important. And then looking into the new thoughts you've had, the new feelings, the new deeds, finding out about the meaning of the old year is a glorious process. And I really, Inner Advent, someone who was doing Inner Christmas about the 4th year said, well, Lynn, I love Inner Christmas, but what about Inner Advent? And I can't, it was thrilling to have to look at that. And then the epiphanies, if there's Inner Advent, there's Inner Epiphany, and how do we integrate what's come to us through the holy nights? So in the New Testament, there are 4 epiphanies, and these are the needs to manifest our wisdom, our individuality in the world. And so in Inner Epiphany, I talk about the gifts of innocence and the gifts of wisdom. I talk about the epiphany that the Catholic Church doesn't acknowledge as an epiphany, but it's when Jesus is 12 and he's in the temple with the rabbis. And it's this sudden epiphany of conversation, of questioning and understanding. What are the conversations you need to bring your new wisdom into the world, into your life? And then the moment, which is the baptism, the sudden moment when it's suddenly fully integrated. And this I that you're becoming, this new spiritual maturity is finally just penetrating all you are. And then the fulfillment is the wedding at Cana, when that first deed of your new wisdom, of the new gifts from the holy nights manifests.